Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video, and I'm going to be doing an end of the year countdown, and this time it is my 2019 top 10 favorite movies of the year. So I haven't done this in a little while. This used to be a video that I did every single year at the end of the year. However, I think last year for sure, and possibly the year before that, I didn't do it. I found it very hard to do this list because I am a huge movie fan. I see hundreds of movies a year. I keep a list. Let's see if I can pull it out. I'm recording this a little early, so there will be a couple more that add to this list before the end of the year. But so far, I've seen 101 individual films in the theater. I only count the theater films, and then if you count the ones that I've seen multiple times, in total, I've gone to the movies 148 times this year. So I'm a huge movie fan, and I find it difficult because I'm such a big fan of certain genre movies to compare those genres with just the standard films. So therefore, sometimes I do lists where I kind of do a separate list of just like the nerd stuff that comes out, basically like the comic book, Star Wars, Transformers type of movies, and then I do a separate list just talking about the normal films, just the average everyday ones. But this time I decided to combine them, and it made it very hard to do the list because it's hard to compare movies that I have a big fandom for just the average like personal drama that I really enjoyed. We'll see how this goes. This is just kind of my personal opinions too, obviously. Some of these movies, I think the majority of movies on this list are pretty well liked by everybody, but I'm sure the order that I put them in are maybe controversial. So we'll get into that. I will be also doing a top 5 worst movies of the year, in my opinion. That one's kind of fun, so I will be doing that in a separate video. But here we're doing top 10. I was originally going to do top 8, but then when I was writing on my list of just kind of movies that I liked, I realized I had 10 easy, so I'm like, well, let's do top 10 then. So let's start it off with my 10th favorite film of the year, I'd say, being How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. This I thought was quite a good movie. It was one that came out pretty early in the year. I believe March is when this released. It was a really nice finale for the trilogy. I think that this is just one of those really solid trilogies that really every installment was quite good in its own way. They all told a really unique story that was also quite touching, especially this one. This one has a really bittersweet ending, which I really like, and I think it's quite advanced, especially for an animated film. So this one was just a really well done finale for a trilogy. So I'm very happy about that, and definitely deserving a spot on this list, I'd say. My next one is actually going to be a foreign film, The Farewell. A very good movie. There's 2 foreign films that came out this year that were huge, that just had massive per theater averages and had a ton of buzz around them. This was the first one. This came out in spring. And then the most recent one is The Parasite. I also did see Parasite, and I did really like Parasite. However, in my opinion, I know a lot of people prefer Parasite over The Farewell. I actually enjoyed The Farewell a little bit more. This one tells a fascinating story about, and it's based on a true story, about a kind of a grandmother of the family who is terminally ill, but she doesn't know it. However, the entire family knows it, and they're all having an excuse to come together to kind of say goodbye to her. It's a really good movie. It's actually really fascinating because apparently this is actually something that happens kind of overseas, where it becomes the family's responsibility or choice to tell the person themselves if they are dying. Where here, in the United States, it's mandatory that they know. So I think this is a fascinating film. The politics of that decision is really cool, and then it has a really good cast with Awkwafina being the lead, and she's just a marvelous actress. Then my number 8 film is actually a Netflix original film, The Marriage Story. This one was in theaters, but I never got a chance to see it in theaters. It was very limited and only for a few weeks. So I did watch it on Netflix, and this is a fantastic film. It's extremely deep. Really a character study between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson and what happens with them in their divorce. I think it's an incredibly realistic look at at a divorce process, and it's fantastically acted. It really is. Scarlett Johansson as well, and especially in my opinion, Adam Driver are absolutely incredible in it. Of course, they're being nominated at SAGs and Golden Globes, and I'm sure the Oscars once those nominations come out. But it's an absolutely fantastic film that is unbelievably realistic and has some wonderful dialogue. The script of this movie is excellent, so I'd highly recommend this if you're into kind of dramas like that. And obviously, you've got some kind of genre fair actors in this type of movie, which I think will bring it a little bit more attention. And then another kind of drama that Scarlett Johansson participated in this year would be my 7th choice, being Jojo Rabbit. Really enjoyed this one. This is, Taika Waititi directed. This is his perfect kind of mix of humor and seriousness. If you've seen any of the other Taika Waititi films outside of Marvel, he has a wonderful balance between this and. I think it definitely shows here with Jojo Rabbit. Hunt for the Wilder People was a movie by him that I really loved, and this I'd say is just on par with that. He's a really solid filmmaker that can take serious situations and make them funny and ridiculous. However, by not losing that seriousness, the seriousness always comes around, and it's very important, and it hits just as hard as any drama does. So overall, I think this is a fantastic film with a really strong child actor as the lead. I thought that he was fantastic in the film, especially for his age, and just wonderful, fun, funny, and interesting, and definitely a really good ride all the way through. Now, my number 6 choice is a Marvel film. We have Spider-Man: Far From Home. Really enjoyed this entry, with Mysterio being one of my favorite villains, or just in general favorite characters from Marvel. I was really excited to see him in a film adaptation, and it didn't disappoint. It was really what I wanted, and a really strong Spider-Man entry. Just enjoyed it all in all, and definitely really a crowd pleaser for myself especially. My 5th choice has to be Ford vs. Ferrari. I really enjoyed this. This was kind of the last movie that I consider just like a standard film on this list. I really enjoyed this one though. The trailers looked good, and while I was watching it, it's incredibly fun all the way through. You really never feel a lull. There's fantastic pace to it with James Mangold. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and the pace of this movie is really solid. It's intense, it's interesting, it's very well acted, and it has just a fascinating story to it. So overall, really enjoyed this one, and definitely deserving my highest spot for the kind of standard films on this list, basically. So from here on out, these are all things that are adaptations or remakes or something, or sequels, something of that nature. And let's get into it with number 4 being Aladdin, the live-action remake. This one is split between a lot of people. Some people love this, some people hate it. I personally am in the camp that loves it. I had a tremendous time with this film. I'm a big fan of the original animated film, and this movie was a really good adaptation of that, or remake of that animated film in a live action form. They kept the whimsical and the bright colors and the fantastic nature of the film even in the live action. However, they also introduced some interesting new aspects to the story and to the characters that I thought helped amplify the original story. Something that the other live action remake did not do, which possibly may make an appearance on my other list that I'm doing. But nonetheless, I think that this was a fantastic remake from the original. It was incredibly fun. It was a movie that I saw a ton of times. Let me look it up. Let's see here, Aladdin. Oh, I'm having trouble finding it. But overall, here you go. I saw it 6 times, which might be the most of any movie that I saw on this list. Let's see here. No, I saw Spider-Man 7 times. Okay. Nonetheless, though, I love this movie. It was really fun. It's one that doesn't really get boring. You can just kind of watch it over and over, and it's a very much a feel-good movie. And it made it incredibly fun to watch. My 3rd choice is gonna have to be Joker. Really did love this film. This film is the absolute pinnacle of the issue that I usually have making this list when I'm trying to compare just standard kind of drama or small films compared with blockbusters. This is the perfect in-between movie, because it is a small drama on a blockbuster scale, which it's kind of the first of its class, I'd say. It's very unique in that manner, and I think this is something that's incredibly hard to pull off, but I think that they pulled it off spectacularly, in my opinion. I think it's a fantastic movie. It's very deep. It's the opposite of Aladdin. It's not the fun enjoyment, just kind of feel good movie. It's very much a downer, but in a really intellectual and interesting way, and therefore it makes it just as fun to watch. I really love this movie, and yeah, overall, just a fantastic film with a tremendous performance in the lead there. So, absolutely loved it. Now we're getting to my number 2 spot. This was the most controversial in my head, because when I was trying to come out with this list as to where to put everything, my number 2 spot, I had a movie that it was just kind of the one that I'm like, well, this is my second favorite film of the year. But then I was like, well, do I actually want to put this above Joker? And I had a bit of controversy in my head, and I almost considered just putting Joker above it just because it would make me feel better. However, if I'm being in all honesty, my second favorite film of the year is probably going to have to be Frozen 2. This is a kind of a surprise to me personally. I knew this would make it on my list, but when I really looked at it, I'm like, I really enjoyed this movie. I really did. It might be amplified a bit by the fact that my fiance really loves it, so we were able just to like really enjoy it together. We saw it like 5 times together, and this is kind of what I would say is a step up from Aladdin, where Aladdin is very much a feel-good, fun movie to watch. This, I think, also has that aspect to it, especially with the music. It makes it incredibly fun to watch, and I'm a big fan of all the songs in this film. I really enjoy them quite a bit, but it also takes the original story and amplifies it with a more complex plot that I think just adds to the source material that the original one made, and just amplified the experience. I think that this is a really good movie that is getting overall the response to it is positive, but I think that this movie is actually a little bit, in my opinion, I think it's better than a lot of people give it credit for. I really enjoy it. I love the music, and I may be slightly ashamed to say it, but I really liked it. I have to admit it's probably my second favorite film of the year, and therefore I've got to put it there. Now going on to what my number one favorite film of the year is. This one probably no surprise, but it's Avengers Endgame. Of course, this is a fantastic epic that's a conclusion of a saga, which doesn't happen often at all. However, here we have a fantastic representation of it. Executing in a perfect manner. It really is wonderful, and it really ties up everything that we've been watching for 10 years. It also gives us really satisfying endings to 3 major characters, the 3 biggest characters, you could say, and there's never been a movie that's done that, especially at this level of perfection as far as how it's executed. A really complex plot that ties everything together, and there's so much to tie together that it's just incredibly impressive. I've never seen anything like it, and the film industry hasn't really seen anything else like it. So I have to give it credit, and it is absolutely my favorite film of the year. There's certainly many other great films that came out this year. Definitely don't get me wrong. There was a couple here. There was a couple that I kind of thought about putting on the list. And not to if it didn't make it on this list, it doesn't mean I hated it. Like Shazam, I enjoyed Shazam. Shazam was really fun. I saw it like 3 times, but just it wouldn't make it on this list. It certainly wouldn't make it on my worst list, though. I did enjoy it. Star Wars is a fun movie, but however, when I do look at it, it does have issues. And these movies on this list, for me personally, don't really have many issues. I really enjoy them all. I've seen most of them multiple times. I guess the Farewell, Ford vs. Ferrari, and Marriage Story I've seen once. All the others I've seen multiple times. Some of them getting up to 6, 7, 5 times. Oop, it looks like there's a delivery at the door. Give me a second here. All right, so there you go. There you have it. There's my list of my top 10 favorite movies of the year. I'd say there's some great movies that came out this year. In my opinion, these were my kind of favorites that I watched. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think of my choices. I'd love to hear your guys' choices as well. Stay tuned for my top 5 worst movies of the year. That's going to be coming out today. Actually, I'm going to post them the same day, so you can watch that probably right now. And thanks so much for watching.